will need to follow my voice as it leads you into a relaxed state of meditation.
Welcome to the Hobby Grow podcast. I'm your host, Ben Owens, hobby grower and ghostwriter for the cannabis industry. Each week, we'll dive into my network of growers, hash makers, breeders, and mentors to give you insight into their journeys as growers, plus information you can use to grow better weed and make better hash at home. Hit subscribe, roll something up, and let's get into it. This episode, we are joined by Nick Sclafani, home grower out of northern Colorado. Nick started growing way back in 2002, legally since 2008, but took a break for a while and kicked things back off this year with an outdoor effort. He and I first met through LinkedIn, realizing we lived a few miles apart, and started meeting up for sessions and brews around town. I've been keeping an eye on Nick's plants since he first posted about his return, and I'm excited to see what harvest brings him. I asked Nick to join me today to talk about his journey as a hobby grower, the decision to dust off the grow and come out of retirement, normalizing the plant through cultivation, and growing cannabis with his son. Nick, how's it going, man?
It's going really good, Ben. Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining me. This is the second in-person I've done, so always an adventure. I appreciate you coming on and showing up in person.
Of course. I love growing weed and I love doing podcasts. I got a little experience from my prior career kind of concurrently with weed, but we'll get into that. And love just being on the show, dude. I'm happy for you. It's a great platform.
Thanks, man. It's been a fun journey to put this together. So, like you said, why don't you walk us through getting started growing, what that looked like, what motivated you to do so, and sort of those pivotal moments along the way between then and, I guess, shutting down before we get too far ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, we can start, I guess, at square one. I'm in my early teens, probably 13, 14, somewhere around that time. And, of course, my friends and I are starting to experience a little bit of the cannabis culture and smoking a little bit of cannabis on the side of school and snowboarding and sports and that type of stuff. And before you know it, you run by a couple of seeds and you're growing along the Niwot Creek. And, I'm not really sure what happened with those plants, but they definitely were given a shot. And I remember at one point we were like, holy cow, these are getting big and what if we get caught? That kind of ran across our mind. But no, seriously, I started actually getting into cultivation and more seriously into growing marijuana when I was in college. I got the opportunity to be the general manager of what turned out to be a very large chain of grow supply stores here in Colorado by the name of Way to Grow. And I was given an opportunity to kind of be immersed in the cultivation culture of cannabis. And of course, at this point, I'm still using cannabis, and cannabis is a cool thing for me. So it just kind of went hand in hand. I needed a couple of extra bucks. So I was given the opportunity to kind of immerse myself in it. From there, we start with a couple of hobby grows in some friends' basements and in a basement of my own. And we're starting to figure out some kinks here. We're getting better at it. We're trying to find different cuts of it. And that's kind of was my indoctrination into the cannabis growing culture on an underground level.
No, that's very cool. And this was early aughts, right?
Oh, very much. I mean, I went to my freshman year of CSU. I was 17. So we're going, next year living off campus, 18, 19 years old. I'm starting to grow in some basements and I'm taking the knowledge that I'm getting at work, earning a couple of extra bucks as a college kid and kind of applying it to making a couple of extra bucks and not having to spend any bucks on buying any more weed.
No, that's awesome. I mean, for me, it was selling weed. That was how you had extra weed to smoke. But the idea of growing weed, man, that's crazy. How cool, and so then that brought you into the legal industry as a caregiver, or how did you enter that space?
Well, of course, the hobby growing continued, and I was lucky to meet some really, really cool people who took a liking to me and started to teach me more about, cultivation, get me in touch with better cuts, and show me things that I wasn't learning in, all of the books, the Ed Rosenthal's and the Cervantes, all of the stuff that's out there that we've all kind of looked through at the early career stages of what we wanted to do. And so I kind of got groomed a little bit. And then, like I said, better genetics came down the line and I was still hobby growing. And then in 2008, cannabis becomes medically legal here in Colorado. And I'm thinking to myself, in the midst of a sports writing and broadcasting career post graduation at CSU, like, man, I've been doing this for like a really long time at this point, like 6, 7 years, like kind of growing some herb on the side and making a little money on the side. And what better time to hit up my old man and ask him for a little bit of capital and then start my own grow, Quad Peaks Cannabis. And then it was a small grow, a couple hundred plants with the licenses that we could put together. Okay. And it was myself, and a good friend of mine, and I was doing the sales and then the cultivation and the trimming and just everything, soup to nuts, going down and selling selling my product on Broadway and in different shops in Boulder and Denver. And that was kind of in the old Wild West days, man. So I used that then to kind of go into the next chapter of my cultivation career, which was consulting. I had known a couple of friends from school that had kind of gone into pro sports. I don't know if I want to share their names, but we got some licenses and we did some things out of state, and I was kind of looked at as kind of a brain trust, if you will. You know, of like, how should we start this? What should we do? Especially in cases where like capital was at a premium and we wanted to scale up smart. Let's start with 2 flower rooms and a veg, and then ultimately by Q4 we could go up to 5 flower rooms. Really, really organic growth kind of situations. COVID hit. I was in the midst of a consulting in Oklahoma. And at first, they didn't want my big city germs down there. And what turned out to be a complete wildfire breakout down there was me not wanting to go and finish the job because we were all in this predicament that we had never been in. And so I was able to consult for about 6 months, just via daily check-ins, video conferencing, things like that. But I was no longer allowed to be physically involved. That company went on to do really good stuff, and that's where I went into teaching. I did teaching during COVID. I was a substitute teacher. Fast forward through that, and then you find yourself the head grower at In the Flow in my hometown. I just wanted to get back into cultivation, and consulting had dried up locally. Between all of that beginnings and now, I had a son, so I wanted to stay local. I didn't want to be on the road consulting anymore either. And so I joined up with In the Flow, and then from there, kind of, you're looking at the last 3 years. We did some great things. We won some big awards. I still love those guys. I'm going to have lunch with them tomorrow. Shout out to In the Flow. And then I jumped from growing it again to executive sales kind of again with Shift. Was there for about 8 months, I believe, and just constriction within the industry. It wasn't anybody's fault. It wasn't that we weren't selling great product at a great price, but I learned the lesson of the industry now on the sales side of constriction. And so fast forward through that to where we're at today here doing this podcast. I'm now in the business of the culture of cannabis. Cannabis is always going to be a passion of mine, but I think I've seen enough from both sides to know that there's another angle for me to fit. And so now I just uplift the plant. I think it's a task that I need to take on as far as stewarding in a different relationship now with society and how we approach cannabis, how we think about cannabis, how we speak about cannabis. And so I'm really happy. And of course I do that with Fat Nugs Magazine, and I love it. I really do. It's a great position for me, and I think it uses my experience from kind of soup to nuts, if you will, on all sides of this industry to their fullest potential.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. Quality information has been so hard to come by historically in the space. And so anything we can do, to spread the word about, like you said, soup to nuts, what goes into the plant, what goes into producing the products that people are consuming on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Buying legally these days.
Wow.
So you shut down the home grow when you fully went in on the licenses?
Yeah, for the most part. There really wasn't anything going on the side other than just helping some friends, do some stuff, first timer kind of things. Nothing that was, bigger than like a spare bedroom. So,
okay.
But I've always been involved.
I mean, that's
in
pretty
home
big
grow.
for some home growers.
Yeah,
so.
No, but I've always been involved in home grow.
Yeah.
Is whether I had my own facility that I was running commercially or I was just focusing on that little home grow. I've always said that I'm a better person with my hands in the dirt. And so it just brings out a side of me that nothing else does. No other hobby that I have, whether it's drumming or fishing, just growing a plant is very deeply rooted in me.
Yeah, I can see that. I can hear it. I mean, it's also been cool because I also have seen it in you when we've talked, like your decision to kind of start getting after it again this year.
Yeah.
What what prompted that, and how has it been going? Tell us a little bit about like what's been going on.
So I was gifted some seeds, and I mentioned in that little journey there that I did have a child. I had a son, and he's 8 years old now. And of course, at first, it was really easy to kind of keep the cat in the bag, if you will, about exactly who I am, what I do. Of course, I don't consume around him. But he's getting the wiser now. He understands that I work for a magazine that has to do with plants, and he knows that, Daddy has done really well growing plants, and he's reading now too. So it's only a matter of time before he gets his hands on a magazine.
He's gonna find a fat nugs lying around.
Bingo. And so rather than have his narrative be created by the outside forces, which sometimes are, for lack of better words, a bunch of malarkey, I'd rather kind of take the wheel on that and construct his narrative in a constructive and honest way. And I thought, what better way to do that this summer than to sprout some of these seeds and run a few outdoor plants, And it's not about consuming it. It's not about what it can do. It's simply just about growing a plant, taking care of a plant, being connected to a plant, and just enjoying the process of growing a plant. I think that's the foundation for any understanding of cannabis is, can you grow a plant? It doesn't have to be Cannabis Cup award-winning stuff, but can you keep a plant alive and just be in tune with what it needs naturally? I think that's a really cool thing for a kid, and we'll just continue to build on that narrative as he can understand what it is. But instead of him get it from pop culture or his friends or anything else, I'd rather him learn not only about cannabis as it's rightfully placed in our society now, but also to have a little journey about who his father is. I think that's really cool for him and cool for me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, treating it like gardening, like you're approaching it from the onset, from the lens of this is a plant that goes outside in the garden like anything else that we grow.
Bingo.
Very cool. So how has that discussion been? I mean, it's something I wanted to talk to you about because it's something that even as somebody who's been in this space for 10 years and now as a grower for, more than 5, it's still not something I am personally there with yet. Like if I had a child, which I don't currently, but I have friends and I have family who have children, and like I don't let them in the grow, and there might be an argument that I should, and that would be a normalization. But like, how have those conversations gone with your immediate network of people who, know that you're involving your son in the pruning or whatever that may be?
Yeah, I mean, he's involved to the point where he checks on him. He's thrown water on him a few times, but he's not out there pruning him, and he's certainly not taking any initiative as far as like grow tech, if you will. But he enjoys it. When he comes, I split time with his mother. But when he comes home, he wants to see them. How much have they grown? And of course, now that we've been outside and it's Croptober, they've been in flower. And now when he sees them, he says, "Whew, that one smells like a blueberry," or "Wow, like he calls them, they're getting furry," because we're getting colas. But he didn't understand the concept of, I told him, I go week on, week off. I said, well, by the time you come back, buddy, after next week, we might be cutting them down. And he kind of looked at me and he was like, well, why would we do that? And it's like, so now we have to explain the next part of it. Maybe not the end result being consumption, but that this plant will die because it can't survive the winter time.
And again, in the same gardening context, like any other flower, it's take it down, you chop the buds, and
enjoy them.
Put them in a vase.
Bingo. Enjoy them in a vase, and then that was that. And the gratitude that you get, the self-satisfaction of watching that plant grow from a seed to being on your countertop, per se, in a mason jar or perhaps a vase, it is the reward. And that's what I'm trying to instill in him, is that the hard work, the care that we took when it was going to hail, we moved them under the deck. We looked out for those plants. It's almost like a pet.
Yeah.
But a pet that has so many more dimensions than just, fetch and sit and come here, fetch the paper. So very cool experience for him. And of course, this is all at a snail's pace.
Yeah.
But it is now something that he knows about his father. And as he can understand the industry, we'll just keep building on it. But it's cool that he had that experience of growing a cannabis plant.
Yeah, and I mean, we think about these like next generation of cannabis consumer, next generation of whatever, and like he's like 3 generations down as far as like he's just been introduced to it like it's any other flower, like it's an ag product. Like we all hope that this industry, eventually becomes legal and is treated normal, just like anything else.
Yeah, and when he's old enough to make those decisions, and let's be real, Ben, he's going to make that decision before he's 21 or 18.
Right.
We all did. And so I'd rather him make that decision, one, with a proper education on it and a proper understanding. Now, will I tell him that, hey, I probably made mistakes smoking grass as young as I did?
Yeah.
We've learned a lot over the past 25 years about cognitive development. And I'm not saying that we're all, half mush, but what I am saying is if I could go back, maybe 13, 14 wasn't the best time to be smoking grass. Yeah. And I would tell him that as well and say, make your own decisions. I can't watch you. I can't put you in my pocket. That's part of being a father is you're raising the one that you can't live without to live without you. So you're trying to arm them and have them understand things that
be able to make the decision
that you didn't understand.
Right.
I was, what was I, 12 or 13 years old? Dr. Dre, The Chronic had just come out. The white label CD looks like the Zigzag logo. Like, it's smoke this and do that, every other lyric.
Right.
I'm thinking this is the coolest stuff since Pants with Pockets, man. We got to find this stuff and try this stuff. Whereas I want my son to say, yeah, I know what that stuff is. It's not for me right now. The same as he would with, like, if he chooses not to eat beef or chicken or seafood. What's your reasoning? Make a good decision for yourself. That's right. That's what I want him to treat cannabis like. Is anything else, anything other decision?
Yeah, and I mean, from what we're seeing, seemingly that this whole like they're going to legalize weed and it's going to impact the children, and if anything, the trends I see are less. There's less interest. It's no longer this rebellious thing that it was. It's now just another legal thing that adults can do.
100%. I couldn't agree more with you. It's same as cigarettes. It's the same as drinking beer now. It's not like you've got to do that to be cool. And I think there was a degree of that when we were coming up. Like, yeah, you are being rebellious, or you are stepping out of the norm. Like, you don't care. Thumb your nose at society.
Well, and the different trends of like rebelliousness. Like my wife and I were joking because I mentioned that I used to aggressive inline skate, and she'd never heard the term. And I realized I hadn't heard the term in years, and we went down this YouTube rabbit hole and found out that the industry basically imploded and skateboarding has taken over. And, that was for me, like a quintessential part of rebellion. It was like being a part of skate culture and skateboarding and, listening to hard rock and, all these different things that now they've been replaced by whatever today's version is,
Yeah. How extreme can your TikTok reel be?
Right. Yeah.
That's your rebellion.
How viral does your YouTube video go?
Exactly. It's fun to watch, but I want my son to be able to look at cannabis as a whole by the time that he's actually faced with that decision, that monumental moment where we're all like either handed a joint or, we're out now. We're 14, 15 years old. We're with our friends. We used to have to be home before the lights went on, for dinner. Now these kids just text each other. It's going to happen. Let's just be real. I just want him to have as many tools and as clear of an understanding and honest of an understanding about cannabis as I can give him.
Yeah, and knowing also that he can come to you with questions, and
Bingo.
That line of conversation's been opened.
Yeah. We have a saying in my house that goes, if you're ever in a situation where you think, oh my God, my dad's going to kill me, that's the situation that you need to walk away from and let me know what's going on.
Yeah.
So, I digress, but he's 8. He loves it. He's really had a fun time this summer with it. It's been a bonding experience for the both of us. And I know now, even if it's just that few inches of the story of cannabis, he's got it. And we don't need to push it, but he's got it. And next year, he said he wants to grow an even bigger one. So we won't be as far behind this spring with getting our seeds together. We'll be ready to go.
Awesome. So on that note, you're growing from seed this time. What seeds are you growing? And let's start there. What are you growing right now?
The seeds that I got tossed down were from my friend John Miner of Big Dog Exotics. Big Dog Exotic Genetics. Shout out John there. He sent me some Pastry Pimp and some Blueberry Pimp, which was blueberry crossed with OG Godfather on both of those. So Very, very terpy on the pastry. I'm a pastry cakey terp kind of guy. My nose leans that way, so I definitely wanted to give that one a try. And the blueberry pimp is kind of, as my son said, it smells like blueberries, Daddy. It's a really fun plant to grow. Very bushy. Both have been interesting. Of the two phenos I popped two seeds of each. Big variance between the two of them. So I'm excited to see what the final push looks like. I have one very kind of cookie style growing, more popcorn, more like golf ball up and down the branch. And then I have the blueberry ones, which are kind of colaing up a whole lot more. So I'm excited. They look good. They were super easy to grow. Note here, guys, that I really didn't put a whole lot of effort into these. We kind of tossed them outside in some 5 gals and ran a little King Solomon nutrients on them and let them go. They didn't get sprayed with much. They took a couple of rain showers, but this was an au natural kind of run. Just see what happens. I hadn't grown outdoors since, gosh, I don't know, the early 2000s. All of my cultivation's always been inside, so it's just fun. I mean, again, we started late, and then I didn't realize that things were in flower until I thought we were going to go into stretch, and I started to see some signs. I was like, wow, we're 10 days earlier than I thought we are here. So the solstice definitely changed on us, and it's just been a great experience, man. Just again, coming home, walking in, looking in the backyard, and seeing those, even if it's just 4 plants, is great. It's a great feeling.
Yeah, I mean, even probably having 4 plants is great, especially given everything you've been through, because you know that there's no reason they're going to show up for those plants.
Bingo. That's a whole other story. But, and also after, my stint, my few years over at In the Flow, you get into a grind as a commercial grower. Even if it's, 1,000 or a couple thousand plants, it's a lot more than that. It's your team, it's your focus, it's the timing of everything. You really have a lot of moving parts. So just to come home and have 4 plants to look at and know that if I got a defoliate or do any staking or pretty much anything times 4, at least it's not like 5 hours worth of work. So that's a lot of fun to go back to the hobby side.
Right. It's all scaled down. It's manageable.
Lovely. It's a treat to do it versus like, oh my gosh, I got so many plants to
Well, and
defold.
it's something that like I often forget and have to be reminded of. It's like, oh man, I love coming down and training the plant, or I love doing mixing feed so I can go feed them. It's like, right, but you've got 2 4x4s. Like
totally.
There's a certain scale that it's not enjoyable. It's work.
I always thought a great business idea, Ben, you'll love this, would be like a cannabis farm dude ranch.
Okay.
Like just get a bunch of off the cuff people who think that growing weed would be a lot of fun and have them come in and defoliate a couple hundred plants and pay us to do it, right?
Yeah.
The dude ranch. No,
this is your tour.
no, no, it's a job. When you're doing it on a boutique level or a larger level, like your guest Drew does. Shout out Drew Greco. It's a job, and it's more than just the plant work. It's all of the moving parts. It's all of the personalities. It's and then that's before you even read the plants. You might have stuff that finishing a little earlier this time around for this, that, or other reason. You might be looking at market conditions. You might be getting a lot of requests for a certain strain, and you've got to
things you don't have to deal with at all with your 4 deck plants.
No, and that's where the joy and like really the sparkle in my eye comes back when I walk into the backyard and I'm like, wow, look at those 4 little great plants.
Yeah,
I got an hour's worth of work today to do. Tops. So
like, cool, I get to go home and do this. I get to.
Yeah, versus I have to. But I love growing. I love cultivating. I love seeing where the market is going. I mean, since I came in 4 years ago, again within the flow, now we're talking to the Colorado market again. I have seen so many changes. Buyer changes, consumer wants. The change, 4 years ago, I think distillate wasn't as dirty of a word as it is now.
Yeah. If anything, it was a hot topic.
Bingo. And so it's really come a long way. And to watch all of that now from afar and not be directly affected by it is cool. So yeah. I'm happy where I'm at, but we'll always be cultivating one way or another, even if it's just a couple in the backyard.
Very cool. So are you going to pop more of the same seed next year? Or are you going to do a winter crop?
There won't be a winter crop, but I'll tell you this, there will be an early spring start this time. I'm talking like February, March.
Okay, so when did you start this year?
I didn't get a seed into the ground until I want to say June, man.
Oh wow.
What I've got at home is, for the followers on LinkedIn and stuff, there's a reason why I haven't been posting all of this stuff. Like, it's like really, really basic. We kind of went over the reasons of doing it, but I would say right now, Ben, they're like 2.5 feet tall.
Okay.
They're bonsai style.
Yeah.
They're very small, and I would have liked, the big 6-footers, the Christmas tree looking guy, but that just didn't happen the way I
Right.
dialed it up, because again, I started way too late. I thought I would get this long big spring and summer. Before I knew it, it was late August and it had already switched, and I wasn't expecting the switch until, at least 2 or 3 weeks later.
Okay.
Early September, I was thinking end of October, 8-9 weeks, we're good to go. No, I'm going to be done in about 10-12 days.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, so I undershot by about 3 weeks. So the plants are small, they're super cool, they smell great. I have, maybe some reservations about like the bugs, or I've kicked a few caterpillars to the curb, and
Things you don't deal with indoors.
we'll see. Maybe we'll wash it, maybe we'll sift it, maybe we'll roll a big old joint and go fishing with it. Who knows? It might be a good fish whistle, but it's just the process. Again, we're talking about growing here, right? That's the topic, and whether you're growing just lights out 9.5 out of 10 stuff every single time, or you're just connecting with the plant. That's what's the most important thing here, because by no means, shape, or form is what's going to come out of these 4 plants that's been on my back porch for the last, 90 to 100 days going to be very good. It's just not.
Yeah.
But it was for a different cause.
Right.
And that cause, I believe, that box did get checked.
Yeah.
So who knows? It's going to be fun. But we'll be starting early next spring.
Okay.
I hope to have plants that are, at least 12, 20 inches tall, nice topped, ready to go outside versus, 2-inch tall little
sprouts.
seedlings. Yeah. We gotta get on our horse a little earlier.
So are you gonna try to cure it, or you think you're gonna just chop and freeze?
It's going to be a game time decision. My gut says it's not going to be worth all the post harvest work to freeze it and wash it and press it and do all of that. It's not going to be there. But what we will do is we'll cut it down and we'll hang it.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely give it a trial run. You
Right.
know?
See how it goes.
And like I said, if it's anything to spread around the homies and have a laugh at, we could have a laugh with it. But
Yeah.
Again, it was a great experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you weren't growing for any other purpose but that. So
Nope. Yeah, so it's a win. It's a big win. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And after all my years cultivating at different scales, consulting on cultivations on different scales, I still learned. That's another very important aspect of this is I'm still learning. Every
Right.
single time that I put a seed or a clone into a substrate, we're learning every time. And I learned a lot. So, again, thanks Cannabis. Always a teacher.
yeah, it is an incredible, like you said, it's a great way to engage with the plant, build a relationship with the plant, just have a relationship with the plant without consuming.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Absolutely.
Like historically, especially as a consumer, that appears like you can read about weed and you can smoke weed. That's about it. But like growing weed, definitely up there as far as adding a new dimension to your relationship with the plant.
For sure. And there's a lot of people that, remember some of the crops that I used to have, both, with my grow and then, of course, with other grows. That would probably love to smoke a little bit of old homegrown, even if it's not anything special. That's not what it's about. And the other thing is this, is you can always give away cannabis.
Right.
And so it'll go to some kind of use. Someone will throw it in some butter, make some brownies with it. Who knows, but
It's an incredible gift,
bingo.
like
That's
like
just
a
it.
gram of homegrown, good or bad, whatever, is a portion of someone's soul. It's part of that passion that they've put into it that they're sharing with you.
Bingo. And it doesn't always have to be the best stuff. Sometimes just having it is enough, and having enough to give away is a blessing, like you said. So it'll be fun. We'll finish it out. We'll take a little break. We'll look at some more genetics. I've got some Southern Roots stuff from our friend Anthony.
Yeah, I'm growing some of his stuff right now.
That's definitely going to get popped. And I got a couple of other little beans that I've picked up. A few at Benzinga. I picked up some more at the Cali State Fair. And looking forward to popping a few extra, lying around stuff. You never know what you can find.
Absolutely.
Another gift of cannabis. You might pop the one, and you never know. You share it with your friends, and it becomes a big deal.
I have a hard time popping just one. That's the challenge. I mean, I'm like right now, when this airs, I'll probably have already harvested, but like I have two of Anthony's Zest going.
Yep.
So it's that blueberry mojito with Tahiti lime, I think.
Yep.
I might have misspoke. I know it's Tahiti lime, but I think that's what it is. Oh no, it's glazed donuts. It's the glazed donuts with the Tahiti lime.
Ooh, you lucky dog. I've got the Tahiti lime, and then I also have the blueberry mojito too that you're running. So I'm a season behind you, but I'm gonna be running them.
Hey man, they should be some great terps. He said they were hashy plants, so I'm always looking for new hashers. Everything I've got except for one plant is from seed this time, and I tested that one plant for HLV.
Yeah.
So, but everything else from seed, it's crazy the vigor that plants have from seed. You know, as someone who's grown a lot of clones over the past few years, it's a nice little, like you said, it's nice to be able to just put them in and let them do their thing like nature intended.
Yeah. Things are a blank slate when you pop a seed you've never had, and that's a fun ride too, because you really don't know until you finish it, right? Until we roll it up or do a dab, we don't know.
Yeah.
We can guess. We can use our better judgment when looking at things like yield.
Yeah, I mean, selection before you smoke, like that's the hardest part for me is like right now I've been convinced by people like Shanty to be on this re-veg game where if you don't have cuts, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just re-veg the plant. But I'm like, man, it's so hard for me not to keep a backup library of everything I'm trying to do. And, that becomes the challenge.
Well, lucky for me and you, of course, is we do have these other reserves. We know our networks are so deep, man. But our networks are also so
that
deep
as well, yeah.
So you give a bean away or you give a cut away to a friend, and you can always kind of retrace your steps and find it if something does happen. I mean, you knew better than anybody. You've had circumstances where you've lost a grow, so it's always good to share.
Yeah, it is. That was a very poignant reminder of, and I had somebody reach out that was asking about like, who really cares if your homegrown cuts get out? Like to a certain level, if you're a home grower, you're giving your cuts out is the best thing you can do. And that's proved to be the case twice for me. I've had two instances where one was an HLV scare from someone further down the supply chain that ended up being able to get a clean cut back from me. And the reverse happened where I gave somebody else a clone before I ever contaminated my own mother stock and was able to then retrace my steps and go get that clone. So
yep.
Sharing is caring, but also it's a reality with home grow because you can't keep, there's only so many cuts you can keep. And I mean that physically, not just figuratively.
I agree.
So
you got to pick your favorites. Your space is limited. So always, as Ben said, share. The more that this plant permeates more people, the better, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think, it's an interesting space to be in where, your selection, the value of your selection really depends on what you're trying to do with it. Like if you're in a home grow selecting for the next $100,000 cut, that's quite the aspiration, whereas if you're just hunting for fun, then somebody else who's passionate enough about the plant that you trust with your cut, who is a good enough grower that's going to potentially give you feedback, I think that there's a lot of value in that.
I agree. I mean, I want your opinion on this. I know that a lot of breeders and a lot of commercial grows keep their genetics super close to the vest. God forbid our genetics get slipped out. I've kind of always felt that even if the genetics did slip out, that you really wouldn't lose much business. And I'll tell you why, is because all grows are different. And so if you fall in love with a certain grow's product, just because you were able to have access to that genetic doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be able to replicate it, nor is anyone else at commercial scale. They may get close, but it's kind of like if you think about it with bagels. Okay, you've got an onion bagel, the other guy's got an onion bagel, the guy down the street has an onion bagel. It's all going to be preference. There really is no exclusivity anymore with genetics for the most part.
Yeah, and I think, people pay for a story, a brand or whatever you want to call it, but a story essentially. And that's like Blue Zushi is a perfect example, right? Like Blue Zushi is a very hype strain. Many people in cannabis, if you're at all familiar with connoisseur side of things have heard the name vaguely,
Yeah.
you know, but it's a trendy, fashion oriented, well crafted marketing campaign around a product that is exclusive to them. But then all of a sudden we saw blue Zushi cuts start going everywhere, and everybody had blue Zushi crosses, and it didn't change the market for the actual blue Zushi sold from Tenko.
Right.
You know, like they didn't lose any market share to the fact that like, oh, now all these people have blue Zushi cuts. One is, you know, they're like, well, you don't have the real cut.
There's always that.
Yeah, which you know, like there's a certain level of verification and provenance there, especially if you're stealing a cut from a facility that doesn't want it to come out. But beyond that, you know, it even if it was the same cut, it's like if somebody's like, hey, I have Pappy Van Winkle 23, but it's in this mason jar. You know, I swear it's Pappy, but it's in this quart mason jar. You know, I'll give it to you for $50. You're like, something about this doesn't feel like the real Pappy experience.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's a different story. So
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of that. We've seen it online recently of people, you know, claiming to have X, Y, or Z. But how do we know? I mean,
Yeah.
so what is the answer to that, Ben? I say the answer to that is if you've smoked the real one,
yeah.
then you know.
Well, and even then,
Is
right?
that crazy though? Is that a crazy statement?
I think it is, because like you look at Z is a perfect example, right? Like
Okay.
I've had Z grown in Colorado, I've had Z grown in California, I've had Z grown by multiple people in California. It verifiably same cut, totally different smoking experience. You know, like because, and they say that like Z's a finicky plant and it's a hard thing to deal with and whatever. Maybe there's some truth to that. Maybe it also just expresses differently in different terroir and different environments, different climates, under different lights and setups and whatever you're working. And so, like, it's like Blue Dream, right? If you've had Blue Dream, you're like, oh, that's Blue Dream.
That's Blue
you know,
Dream, yeah.
or like Gorilla Glue is one of those, or GG4, you know, for the sake of censorship.
Sure.
But at the same time, not all cuts are the same. You know, there's a reason why there are specific cuts of GG4 or of, you know, GMO or Skittles or whatever that cut is that set it apart. And it may not be just the genetics alone. It may be the grower tied with the genetics who knows that plant best.
So if you and I walk into, let's just say, big brand dispo, right? You and I, with all
Yeah,
of
yeah.
our combined experience with cultivars, with different styles of growing, and we say, tap on the bud tender's table, give us your Blue Dream.
Right.
Do you believe that you and I, regardless of outside opinion, could identify true Blue Dream versus an imposter?
I think I could tell you whether or not it was Blue Dream. I don't know if I could tell you whether or not it was the Santa Cruz Blue Dream.
Okay, fair.
Like, I think I could get on the target. Like, I might get in the 90% range of like, this is definitely that, or this is more Haze or Jack.
Okay, other side of the coin of that question. Could you say this is definitely not Blue Dream? Or,
Yes.
Okay, so 6 and 1/2 a dozen of another. Let's say someone's pushing something as Blue Dream.
Right.
I can't tell you if it's that Santa Cruz True OG cut, but what I can tell you is that is not Blue Dream, my friend.
Right.
So I
Well,
guess
and again,
that's
it's
the
like
question.
you have like Buffalo Trace, you know, coming from the Sazerac, just like Pappy, designed to be a very good quality, affordable bourbon. Like, again, if you put it in a mason jar, could the average person, myself included, discern them? Potentially, but they also may have no clue, you
Right.
know, and so like they could tell you that it's not tequila. You know, they
There
could
you
say,
go.
hey, this is not a vodka martini, but do they know the difference between a $30 entry level bourbon and a nearly impossible to access bottle?
Yeah.
I don't know. You know?
Yeah. That's a good thing. I mean, or a good point, excuse me. And I guess the thing that it'll boil down to maybe in the future is if we can really sequence these plants. But who's to say, again, when you're starting with something that's an unknown, how do you quantify or qualify it for being the metric?
Well, and it's for that reason that I tell a lot of new growers, because it's very common, right? Like in teaching growers and just having friends who are like, I want to start growing. I love Blue Dream, White Widow, and Sour Diesel. And you're like, where can I get seeds of those? And it's like, well, they're like, I found this $25 pack online. And I'm like, I've never heard of that website. Do not buy that.
Right.
But also, if you're chasing a very specific cut coming from the consuming world to the growing world, don't buy seeds. One, because of the chance of you getting real seeds is going to depend a lot on your ability to research, so you might get real Blue Dream seeds if you can find your way to the exact source. But chances are you're going to end up somewhere along the way with a white labeler or somebody who's done an S1 or something, and they're spinning it off for a discount, and it's a more affordable, attractive offer. You get more seeds or whatever. But if you want that explicit thing, get the cut.
Agreed.
Like, don't try to hunt for something different, especially as a beginner. Not that you should all necessarily be bringing in cuts, but if you want something very specific, you need to do things differently. Versus if you just want the best experience as a beginner, I would say probably popping seeds and not having to guess what your clone comes with is a good option. But if you're like, no, I only want this exact experience, then go get the clone, learn how to grow around that specific one.
I couldn't agree more. No, you said it.
Well, let's get into some rapid fires here so I can get you on your way. Appreciate you taking this time. So your first grow setup, walk us through kind of the basic stack of like light, space, nutrients, soil. What were you working with?
First grow setup. We're looking at, I believe, a 4x4 ebb and flow table. Bare bones. I think we had like a 35-gallon tote for a reservoir up on a card table kind of setup, 1,000 watt light. Think we were using GH Flora Nova. I think we were doing just 2-part.
Easy.
Very, very little admins to it. Trying to keep the pH right. Struggling to get a little 8-site daisy cloner to spit out viable clones that weren't rotten. Dialing in that process.
HPS?
Yep, HPS.
What genetics were you on?
We had, believe it or not, speaking of genetics,
Blue Dream.
we had White Widow. You mentioned we had a White Widow from an incredible source. Man, that was a really good
Cuts
cut.
that get lost, man.
That one got lost, unfortunately. We tried to find it. The one person I entrusted with it had sadly lost it. Had kept some seeds over the years that had naturally occurred. The ones that I popped did not fruit what we needed out of it. So unfortunately, that one's RIP. But that's basically it, man. We're talking college setup, basement setup, murky little basement. Not
God,
a whole
if
lot
I knew
of,
what I knew now than I knew back in college, right?
right. But truly, just like your average college, 4 dudes living in a house, basement little setup. Hopefully, we don't get caught.
Right.
Kind of.
Nobody bring their girlfriend down here.
Yeah, that was the thing, was nobody talked about it. It was like, okay, like who watered them today? We watered them once, we left them alone. Like the guy who was, kind of helping us. I think back in the day we called it sponsoring us.
Okay, yeah.
It was one of those situations, we wanted to grow. We figured out the spot. We pulled up a couple of bucks.
It's like, hey guys, I can help you make this happen.
Yeah, and in the end, we were disappointed with what we ended up with. In terms of like, wow, it really dries up a lot. I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
but that was it, man. Very basic, and we ran it for 9 months, and it was really cool.
That's cool.
It was really cool.
How many harvests did you get? 2?
We got 3.
3,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah, 3-month harvest basically. The first ones were really slow, and really small.
Yeah.
And we just kept growing from there. I always had something going on, either whether it was in my little basement in college or if I had something going on at someone else's basement in college.
Yeah.
So that was kind of it for a few years. And
yeah, no, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love to hear that.
Steamrolls from there.
So current grow you sort of got into is outdoor. Soil? Peat, just any specific soil or just dug it up from the ground?
No, just like a plain neutral potting soil.
Okay.
We cut it with some perlite, and that's about it.
King Solomon nutrients.
King Solomon, shout out to Damien over there. Thank you for sending me those. And then yeah, just checking pH, trying to keep them out of the hail.
How's your water over there? Pretty good, not great.
It's serviceable. It's tap.
Yeah.
We're not going to
I
lie.
mean, we have great water here in
Yeah,
Longmont, so.
it's serviceable. It's a little hard coming out. It's like 7.4 right from
Okay.
the spigot, but we drop it down. It
Buffers in the
balances.
soil.
Yeah, buffers in the soil. So nothing too crazy there. So just like really, kind of just like a raw dog outdoor grow. I mean, as long as they're green and they're upright and doing their thing, that's kind of been the only attention they've got.
Okay. So the next few are just kind of this or that's, man, like trimming, wet or dry trim.
Traditionally, I used to always do a wet.
Okay.
But once I got into more commercial cultivation and I was taught and learned a lot more about other ways to, so to speak, skin the cat, which is harvest,
Yeah.
now I'd like to do a dry trim.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you de-leaf it all before, like defan, or just leave everything on it, flip it upside down, and hang it?
Definitely not just leave it all raw and flip it upside down. Through the flowering process, I'm doing a lot of pruning, as needed.
Okay.
And I'm kind of more on the obsessive side of my default as well. So we're lollipop to 50%, always bare branch below that. And then from there, as things are either covering colas or really good bud sites, we're removing that leaf. So I would probably say on the spectrum of like guys who go raw, like you said, just let
Yeah.
the plant do its thing, versus guys who like truly schwa's out. I'm more towards the schwa side.
Okay.
But nothing too crazy. But yeah, it's a very natural but bushy looking plant still.
Okay. Salts or organics?
Preferably organics always.
Okay.
There's a lot of different ways I've grown with, as we mentioned, from GH products
Yeah.
all the way to super, high end boutique stuff like Atami and Canna, things like that. But if I can, organic all the way, every time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I did the full organics thing, and I think there were other things standing in my way. But yeah, I don't know. The Synganic approach seems to be where I found myself. So.
And that's a good way of, understanding it. If you can go organic with, 1, 2, and 3 on the list, but you've got to have an additive that really you believe in and it gives your unique space and process that edge, and you like it, then there's nothing wrong with bringing in, something that isn't 100% organic. But given the choice, my base is always going to hopefully be organic.
Okay. Flour or hash?
Ooh. If I could only have one, that's the question.
Yeah, I guess. What are you grabbing first?
I'm grabbing the flour, man.
Yeah, grabbing a bag of weed on the way out.
Yeah, I'm grabbing the flour. I mean, hash is great. You've, treated me some unbelievable sessions with your hash knowledge and stash. But yeah, flour. I'm a flour guy. I love rolling up. I'm a bong guy as well. I love, a couple of perks in my stuff, and bigger the better sometimes if I'm in the right mood. But yeah, flour for me.
Okay, for sure. What you mentioned, the White Widow cut. Any other epic cuts that you've seen along the way that you no longer have that you wish you could bring back?
Yes, of course. Kali Mist.
Okay.
I had a really, really, really unbelievable cut of some pure Kali Mist. 13 weeker, huge long spears. I'm talking, 36, 48 inches down the branch.
Oh wow, just straight
Spears,
cola.
just spears, man, and very little fan leaf either. They never got like that really huge chunk on them.
Okay.
Obviously, being a pure sativa, you get
Yeah.
that. But 13 weeks, if you could wait, back in those days, we would wait that one out.
That's crazy.
And it was unbelievable. Second runner up would definitely be like a pure maple leaf indica.
Okay.
I was blessed with one of those right at legalization around 2008. I came by one of those, had it, and it did really well. We always kept her around. Wasn't the biggest yielder,
Okay.
but just a really fun, rigid plant. You barely had to stake it. It was built for the trenches, and just so mapley, just like pancakes, waffles, all of those type of terps coming through. Really, really good.
Yeah, that's cool for sure. What advice would you give to other hobbyists, man? Whether that's growers who've taken a break or growers who are beginning their journey or, knee deep in it.
This may sound counterintuitive to the old heads out there who, as we mentioned, it was always keep a secret. Keep your mouth shut. Don't show your girlfriend. No, your friend can't see it. I don't care how cool they are. My best advice is to share openly and seek advice, seek knowledge, meet other people, get involved with communities, get involved with forums, ask for grow tours if you can get them. A lot of people are welcoming, they want to show you. There's so much to see out there. The more you learn about growing and different avenues and different ways of cultivation, the better you'll be as a grower, whether that's hobby in a tent or eventually you have a little bit of a basement grow or a spare bedroom. The more you learn, the better your network is, the more you'll have access to cultivars, the more you'll have access to answers when you have problems, because let's face it, we're all going to have problems all the time. It's just the nature of the game. And then your knowledge base will be that much more diverse. And so don't be afraid to reach out for help. I think you'll find that while there is some gatekeeping in this industry, there's so many more people that outnumber the other side of that. I think we want to share. We want to spread the word of the plant. We want to share knowledge and we want to gain knowledge. And let's, be honest, the most knowledge that you have to gain is not going to be from a book. It's not going to be from reading on a forum. It's going to be actually getting in touch with other growers. That would be my best advice for anyone who's just starting or like myself, maybe seasoned and can see a lot of things before they come, but I still get blindsided. And so I reach out to a friend. I reach out to you sometimes. I say, hey, what do you think about this idea? Am I crazy? Bouncing those things back and forth with other growers is what this community's been built on and will continue to be built on. So just stay in touch, make friends.
No, I love that. I think that we're in a unique position these days where we can be open. There isn't this additional legal risk and life risk of by sharing what your truth is. So
yeah, very much take advantage of that.
yeah. What about for growers who have done this at home, or maybe they've done this at a slightly larger, off market caregiving situation or what have you? What about those growers who want to make the jump to commercial? Having seen both sides, like, do you have any advice for those growers?
Absolutely. When you're thinking about going from the home grow to maybe a W-2 with it, I think that's the question, right?
Yeah.
Can you take your passion for your hobby and then turn it into a career?
Right.
Make sure that when you do that, you apply to places that align with your culture, with your style of growing, maybe.
Great advice.
Even what you tend to lean towards as a cultivator. Ask yourself, what's important? Is it high THC? I hope not. But if it is, then be sure you go to a place that's always touting their THC levels. Make sure that your goals align. If it's great terps, if it's organic growing, if it's legacy, strains, if it's woman owned.
Focus on hash, whatever.
Absolutely. Make sure that your passion aligns with the company that you get with. And then when you do find a company, make sure that the person who, inevitably is overseeing what's going on is someone that you want to learn from. Again, like the other bit of advice that I just gave, make sure that you're learning all the time. Never walk into a situation thinking that you've got it all figured out. Every grow is different. As we all know, every facility is different. Every style of growing is different. Make sure the person that's in charge and going to be guiding you as you assist them is also a great teacher for you. Again, it's all about knowledge with this plant. I'm still learning every single day, and I've been growing this plant on and off for the better part of 30 years. It's important. It's important. It's what you learn after you know it all for sure is what makes you a better grower the next round.
That is insane. Yeah, no, I mean, that's great. That's incredible advice. I hadn't even thought about that, but yeah, I know that that's a source of friction for pretty much everyone that I talk to as a grower. So knowing what you're getting into. Well, before we wrap up, where can people find you? Where can they meet up and see what Fat Nugs is up to, what you're up to? How do they support you? Just, the floor is yours.
I mean, I'm not hard to find. I'm on Google. You can Google me on Nick Sclafani.
You can Google me.
I'm on LinkedIn is a great place to interact with the community, kind of a safe spot for all of us to be able to exchange ideas publicly without, the knock from the old federale. And I'm on Insta.
Boys at Meta.
Yeah, I'm on Insta. I'm Vitae Nick there. You can find me there. And I'm just a normal guy. I always say that to people, regardless of my position with Fat Nugs Magazine or other things that I do, moderating boards or stuff like that. I mean, I just love to smoke and I love to meet people. And that's a testament to our friendship that's kind of come around. We realized that we were within a cruise and we met for a beer and everyone walked away safe and we're cool. And now we're friends. And again, it builds a network and it builds a community. And when people, have questions, I said, have you ever thought about my friend Ben Owens?
Right.
Check him out if you're thinking about doing that. And that word of mouth and that respect for each other and the lanes that we reside in, and as those lanes change, they go so much farther than just cannabis. That's the other thing to think about, is if you're going to go into cannabis, make sure you have a higher calling. And what are you going to do with the tool of cannabis? Because I can look back at my life and say that, great friendships, business acumen gained, and then opportunities in the future have all been one way or another related to cannabis in my life. And that's a special thing to keep in mind too, is when you go into this, it's going to be a lot more than just growing a plant.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great reminder for people,
Yeah.
especially because if you're limited to seeing, what's in your spare bedroom or what's in your tent or whatever, like the ripples of all the other things involved often aren't there.
And the last thing I would say is you can see what I'm up to professionally now with the plant, with Fat Nugs Magazine. But shout out to the big bro, Dustin Hawksworth, editor-in-chief, Jessica Riley Chevalier, and everyone on staff, Aaron, JB, our photography team, Kai and Daryl and Paula. Just a phenomenal crew of people to work with. Again, Cannabis, thank you for putting me in a position to be graced with all of these folks professionally, day in and day out. I'm the vice president of sales. So I'm that guy who is really in charge of who we work with and how we work with them within this culture. And believe me, and we all know that there's bad actors out there, man. You got to be careful of who you align with in this business, and that's sad to say, but it's true. And so I'm just trying to do my best to be a good steward of the plant and guide it, if you will, hold its pinky as we go on this thing and hold on for the ride, because I just want to see it in a place in society where it's in a rightful place, an honest place, and a truthful place, to where when people need cannabis or benefit from cannabis, they have access to it and they understand it.
No, I think that's an admirable mission, man. I concur with you on being a steward. It's what we're here for, and especially as growers, getting to show people that side of the plant. So, well, that's it for now. New episodes drop weekly to help you grow better weed and make better hash at home. Hit subscribe, leave a review, share with a friend. As always, I'm your host, Ben Owens, and we'll see you next time.